Jean-Guy Boin is the former director of the International Office of French Publishing and the author of several books on small publishers. Is there anything else I can say about you?
Yeah, first I am economist. When I was in my 30s, I was a publisher in social sciences.
Oh, okay. So
a
you've got
company
experience.
which name is La Découverte.
Okay. Still around? Is it still?
Yeah. And later, I was responsible of the department of book economy at the French Ministry of Culture.
Okay.
And then, during 17 years, I was the manager of this office.
Welcome to the Bibliophile.
Yeah, thank you very much.
First question, what lessons can French publishing teach American, British, the English-speaking publishing world?
Well, I speak for industry. I don't speak for literature and so on, okay?
Okay.
And I think that in France, but also in Germany, because it's about the same problematic. That in France, there is something very interesting because there is like a coordination between the publishers,
Sorry, he's parking right there. And I wonder if he's going to turn off his engine. That's better. Okay.
It's okay?
Yeah.
That there is a strong cooperation between the publishers, in general, but also booksellers, but also librarians,
Yeah.
but also authors, with the government, I mean, in France, with the French Ministry of Culture. It's something very important. But first, French publishing industry is a private one. It's not a public one.
Yes.
Okay? And like in many countries, of course, it's not a socialist.
They want to make a profit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. And as you know, for the trade books, Hachette is the third world company. We think in France, we think that for book industry, we have regulation to do. These regulations are first the fixed book price, very good thing.
Fixed book price. Yeah.
In France, it exists since 37 years. In Germany, it exists since 1 century and a half. In Great Britain, it existed till 1995.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
And in other countries, in Japan, it exists and so on. First, fixed book price. And second...
Let's get to the fixed book price right now. It works basically, the small bookseller gets to sell their books for exactly the same price as the big chain bookstore.
Yeah.
There's no discounts allowed,
no,
right?
It's possible to do 5% discount for a customer, but it's not a third. So it's a fixed book price. For us, it's possible to see that since 35 years, the growth of the price for the book is not so important than the growth of the price of all the products. So it's not a process with inflation. Is it correct for that?
Yes, okay. It doesn't. They haven't taken advantage by.
Yeah. So I think it's a very interesting, and it means that there is a competition. When people say there is no competition when there is a book price, a fixed book price,
Yeah.
I say no, because there is a competition not by the price, not by the discount,
No.
but there is a competition by the quality of services in the bookshops and by the booksellers.
Yeah.
And it's something very important. And why it is important? Because in economy, I'm economist, I told you.
Yeah.
In economy, we can say that book industry is an industry of offer. It's
An industry of.
offer, and not an industry of demand. In France, we have about 50,000 new titles a year. So it's a very important. In Great Britain, I think it's about 80,000. 80,000. In Germany, 70,000.
Okay.
Many countries like that. And when it exists one product with so many references, it's what we can say. It's a politic of offer. offer. It's correct for you?
So I think so, or supply. Supply?
Yeah, supply. Of supply, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think it's a better supply. It's,
Yeah.
it's an industry of supply. Not the same way that for other industry.
It's a combination of art and craft and business. It's not like the other.
Yeah. No, not only art, not only business, not only bestsellers, but not only mini, small poetry and so on.
Yeah.
It's all of that, okay? And first time. And second, I think that for the consumers, the main reasons of the choice for them to buy books are not only because they can see on the page of Amazon or they can see on publicity, but because they can see on the table or in a window of a book. So they can discover, okay?
While they're in the bookstore.
Yeah, in France, we have with that the very, very important network of booksellers.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When I come to Paris, I love the fact there's so many beautiful little bookstores.
Yeah, and but also very big booksellers like Fnac and so on. But so it's a very important, and for the public, they can choose. It's at the same price they can choose.
Yeah.
That's a first point, very important for us. Second point, I think in France, it's not the case for UK and also for USA. In France, we have what we call droit d'auteur. Droit d'auteur, I think it's not really translating by copyright, because there is some. I think you know the difference between droit d'auteur and copyright. No.
Maybe you could explain
because
it.
I think mainly we can say that for the droit d'auteur, there is something what we call moral rights.
Moral right.
Moral right. You know that?
I've heard it. Yeah.
It means that publishers can't say it exists in USA. A publisher, for instance, 4 years ago, published a book from an author. Okay. And 4 years later, he says, well, it's not many sold. So I think it's not many sold because 80 pages, it's too much. So I want to short that with 200 pages, for instance.
Right.
It can do that if the author
doesn't agree.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's what we call moral. Okay?
Right.
Okay? And it's something very important. And
so it's the fact that the artist, the writer, has control over his or her work.
It's one of the reasons because the agents, literary agents in France, are less important than in UK, than in
United
USA,
States. Yeah.
but also Germany. Germany now, I think about 20% of the books are published with agents. In France, it's about 4, 5, 6%.
Yeah. And in America, it's about 90%.
Yeah, 90.
Even more.
95, yeah. And in Great Britain, it's very important too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you explain that again to me? The fact that French authors don't use agents is because they have this droit, this protection?
Not only. There is that, but also in France, I think that it exists still editors and not only publishers. And I think it's very important. When I went in USA, where BIEF, when I was a manager, we had an office in New York. Okay. An agency for translation from French books in American. I discussed.
There was an agency that you helped translate French books into English for the American market?
With FPA, French Publishers Agency.
Okay.
And I discussed with many publishers from New York and so on. And the king is the marketing man, or the marketing man, okay?
In the United States?
Yeah, really. So in France, for instance, perhaps you know, 5 months ago, a friend of me, but very, very good publisher editor, POL, Polo Tchaikovsky Lawrence, died. Did you know that?
Yeah, what's his name again?
Paul Ochakovsky Lawrence, P-O-L.
Okay,
P-O-L.
right.
He died. And what is interesting, it's that we read in the newspapers and so on during 1 month. It explained very well the quality of the relation between this person, he was the manager of the company, it was the own company, and the authors. There is a direct relation between the editors and the authors.
Between the editors at the publishing houses and the authors.
But Paul was the editor, but also the publisher.
Yes. Yeah.
So there is a very strong relation, of course, about money, about business, about commercial matters,
Yeah.
but also on the tax side. And it's something very important.
That's what literary agents do. They edit. Maybe not in France, but certainly in English-speaking world.
But really agents, I do like agents, because I know that in the UK, but also in the US, they do this job.
They do. What they do is they clean up the manuscript, and then they send it to the publisher, and the publisher doesn't have to do all that work.
But what is different, very different in France, that publishers, big companies, but also little companies, they do the same. For instance, Hachette, you know Hachette is a very, very big company.
Yeah.
Inside of Hachette, there is very imprints, but also various companies which belong to Hachette, 100% of the capital, really, okay? Mm-hmm. But they are a real identity. For instance, Grasset.
Yeah.
Grasset belongs to Hachette. And another company from Hachette, which name is Fayard. Fayard belongs to Hachette.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But they are in competition,
Theoretically.
even for the authors. And the competition is done at best by the quality of the relation with the authors. And it means that in Hachette, the way of organization is like an independent company. They can, of course, profit of all the structure, marketing, and to buy papers and so on, but they are like a little
independent
department.
Yeah.
But they don't have to lose money, of course. Is it clear after that? And
I think so. They each separate sort of division within Hachette competes with each other, and they have their own editors.
Yeah.
Can you repeat why you think the agents aren't so important in France? It's because each of these independent, even though they're part of a larger group, they have good editors themselves, and they have relationships?
It's not only good editors, because I think in UK, in US, there are also good editors, of course.
Right.
But I think that the manager asks to their editors and to publishers to be very near with their authors. And that, of course, they use marketing techniques and so on, but it's not the main topic. I think that in general, it seems to me that in general in USA, the marketing department is very important for the decisions. Okay?
I see, yeah, that's the difference.
In France it does exist, but it's first the text.
Yeah.
It's first the position of the editor.
What about the fact that an author, if they sign 100% rights over to the publisher, to the manuscript that they submit, they sign away their film rights.
Of course.
And they share at 50-50, typically, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if they sign with an agent, they get 80%, and the agent gets 20%. That's a pretty good incentive to go with a literary agent, isn't it?
Yes, but here you speak about audiovisual rights, okay?
Over and above the text.
Yeah. So I think that it depends upon, for instance, I know many, in a company like a POL, there is a very known French author, which name is Emmanuel Carrère.
Okay.
Emmanuel Carrère is is with Paul publishing, no problem. But for the pictures, for audiovisual, he discussed with an agent. Okay, so it's possible to do that.
Possible to do that. Okay. Yeah.
But when we say you say it's a 50-50, the law says it's a minimum 50-50.
Okay.
It does not mean that it's necessary.
It could be more for the. It could be more for the author.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other lessons from the French publishing system that you think others should pay attention to? Because it, as I say, for me, as someone who loves to visit France and who loves bookstores, that on its own, to me, justifies the fixed price. For each city, you've got a whole bunch of lovely bookstores that I can visit. So it trickles down to, into the economy for tourists. Tourists love coming to France, literary tourists, to visit beautiful bookstores, and they're all over the place.
I think that the fixed book price, it's one condition for many booksellers, and I think that in a borough like here, Saint-Germain-des-Prés and so on, there are competition between the booksellers, and the competition is not by the quality, by the discount.
No, the price,
but by the quality, to say hello, to present very well, and to know very well the books.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know a very good bookshop, which is at about 700 meters from here.
Okay.
Which name is Company.
How do you spell that?
Company.
Company, just company. Okay.
Yes, but company is written in French. E.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
A bookshop about 300 square meter, just in front of the Sorbonne. It's 56 Rue des Écoles. What is very interesting, near Company there is another big shop which name is Gibert on Saint-Michel. But what we can observe, it's that for instance, for the social sciences books, Company is the best seller for the social studies books, philosophy.
Even though it's a tiny shop.
I mean real social sciences. I don't say Bernard-Henri Lévy because I don't think that Bernard-Henri Lévy is a philosopher. I say real philosopher. I say, and it's very interesting, but there is a good relation between Gibert and Company. They say also second-hand books. In France, it's possible to sell second-hand books. The law for the fixed book price doesn't
apply to second-hand?
No, it's not forbidden, of course.
No, that's good. Yeah.
So it's a way. It's for instance, I mean that the university teachers, and I think that also students in thesis and so on come more in Company than in Gibert.
Okay.
But for instance, in Company, I know them very well. There is in this bookshop, if you visit it, I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, well.
There are about 70,000 titles present in 300 square meters. So it's a very rich,
Yeah.
It's not like the exchange in UK with many like that, but not many titles.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very important. So at this example, you can find it, perhaps not at Le Mans, as you say, but you can find it at Lyon, at Marseille. And it means that our system, it allows that the bestsellers can be sold, but it's possible also for first novels, for social sciences, for art books, architecture books, and so on. It allows the possibility of a very wide diversity of the quality of books, which are not the best sold.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas in Canada, for example, the selection of books is just getting narrower and narrower every year. They're just focusing in on what sells.
When I go to London, I go in Watterson. The selection is more and more little. Okay?
Exactly, yeah.
When I was in Brazilian and Rio with Charkin, Richard, he told me that he was one of the responsibles of the netbook price stopped.
He was one of the ones responsible for getting rid of it?
And he said, but now I think we did a mistake, but it's too late, I think now.
They can't reintroduce it? No, because the public would revolt.
No, it's too late.
Public would
They
say,
we did a mistake, and I like that because it is very honest. He did, not only him, but the major publishers at this time say, yeah, Waterstone and so on, yeah, you can try that. They say, when I see in France, when I see in Germany, and so on, I think it was a mistake. But there is a particularity in Great Britain too. It's that a wide part of your market is for export.
yeah.
And not in France, because in France we have, of course, exportation too, but it's for countries less rich.
Yeah, so the Francophonie.
West Africa is less rich than Australia or than Canada and so on.
Well, you got Quebec, which is what I wanted to ask you about.
Quebec is a small market.
No, it's like 7 million or something.
7 million.
Yeah.
So Quebec, it's about 3.5 or 4% of the whole market.
One of the things that upsets me is how many bookstores, and many others, is how many bookstores are closing in North America, and how important they are to communities.
Great Britain too.
Great Britain, it's
it's
very upsetting, and that's what's so great about France.
It's very nice to work with bookshops and so on. But another way, and many persons forget this topic.
It's really noisy here. That's Paris for you, though, right?
Many persons cannot see that it's a way of competition between the bookshops.
I think that's the point you're making, is that it's not just about price, it's about service.
And it's not only because it's beautiful, pretty and so on, but they are obliged, the booksellers are obliged to be in a qualitative relation with the assortment. So they have to push the books of the publishers. And not only the bestseller, but also
all the
production.
Yeah.
And I think it's something very important. Many persons say, well, fixed book price, it means that...
they call it communist, maybe.
You're communists, you are employees of the state and so on.
Yeah.
That's not the way.
Well, it's like the market isn't the answer to everything, and it's particularly when it comes to things like books and bookstores. Leaving this to the market is, as you can see, it's devastating the bookstores for sure, and that reduces the quality of life for people in the city, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so these are lessons that I think the French system can provide to the rest of the world.
Okay. Yes, it's what when I was a manager at the BF, it was one part of my job to explain to the publishers and also for booksellers from other countries the French experience. I don't say French model because we are not here French to say we are the best and so on. That's not the way. No. But to say I was 3 weeks ago I was in Ukraine and they invited me to understand what is the experience, the French experience. And as you see, I say first like economist, not only like literature, poetry and so on.
No.
It's also my way. I was publisher of philosophy and so on, that I do know. But I'm first economist, I have to explain. And when I worked at the French Ministry of Culture, I was about one time each month for these questions, because they wanted to stop fixed book price. So I have,
you have to defend it.
Yeah, I have to defend, and I think I won't because I'm an economist, so I can explain and not only we are here to defend the poor booksellers that they can't lie. No, that's not the way. The way is to have a very market, very open with very wide diversity of books.
Yeah.
And for all the markets to find the books. One chance for each book published.
Maybe we should talk a bit about Amazon. What are your thoughts about Amazon, and how does France deal with it?
Amazon in France, in general, the books bought by library, as we say, I mean electronic bookshops, Amazon, Snack.com, and so on. It's about nearly 20% of the market. It's very important. And of course, you can find bestsellers, but also you can find books that there are only 30 or 40 copies, no more at the end, the life. So it's also useful, but I think that it will be the maximum in several years when it will be at 24-25%.
Yes.
Another way, I think you know that, for electronic books, for trade books, electronic books in France, it's a little more than 3%, no more, of the market. In UK, it's more than 20%, but it decreases. I think it decreases.
It's coming down,
like
yeah.
in the USA.
Yeah.
But in France, I think in 5 years it will be at 8 or 10%.
Who makes the most beautiful books in France?
Not only one. It depends.
Who do you think? Give me the name of a couple.
It depends. It depends the category of books. You can say the same for literature, or for art books, or for children books, or for
Sure.
comics. It's not the same. I think it's not possible to say one.
You must have a favorite, though. Do you collect any books?
No, I have a big library at home, but I can't say it's a collect. No, I think at my home I have, 8,000 or 10,000 books, but I do like books. But I think in literature you have very important publishers like Gallimard, of course, Minuit, Grasset, Actes Sud, also, like that. In social sciences, you have La Découverte, you have PUF, you have a company like that. For me, my favorites are about 4 or 5 publishers by category of books.
Okay.
Not only one, I think, because Gallimard is very known, of course, and in general, very, very, very good books. But you can find very, very good books. I say for Actes Sud, but I say for Grasset. You can say for Flammarion also, okay?
Yeah.
But I do like this sector. It's a part of my real important part of my life. And
Books.
To live with the books.
To live with the books, yes.
To live with the books. And
what is it that attracts you?
I didn't know, because normally my job would be to work in a bank or to work
as an economist,
or to work at the Ministry of Economy, because it was my formation first, and it was like something new. I arrived in this, and I was very interested, perhaps also because it was a chance for me. I think I was the first economist to be interested by the question of the economy of books, because at this time, 40 years ago, persons don't say economy, and I say we have to understand what is the economic matter of this industry and this market.
It's kind of a managed market, isn't it, in France?
Managed, you mean?
Managed by the government.
No, it's not managed. It's really a private industry.
It's a private industry, but as I say, you're not letting the market do what it normally does, which is dog-eat-dog competition, which pushes the price down to the bottom.
Yes, but I told you that's okay. In the UK, for instance, there is a discount for the new titles, which are the bestsellers, for instance, of course. But I say, in general, my topic is in general, is to say, for all the books in 1980, 1990, in 2000, 2010, and now 2018, what is the level of the prices and what is the evolution of this price in comparison with the level of the price of all the category of goods.
Right.
And for me, it's an indicator which is really correct and pertinent. And not only to say I can buy this title with discount of 50%. So it means that for the consumer, that my position is correct. They don't buy only one book with 50% of discount. They buy books in general.
Who's the publisher you admire the most?
Excuse me?
Is there a publisher, an individual maybe, who you admire the most?
An individual publisher?
Who you think is the best? Maybe he's dead, maybe he's still alive?
It's not possible. My position is not to say only one person. I think there are any persons, but I say half an hour ago, I say about POL, publishing books with a very, very big quality in literature, very big quality, and he was a very nice person, but he was interested too by the pictures, by the cinema, and he was with a culture, a knowledge very, very wide, you know, and he was a president of Festival of Cinema. What I like for a publisher, for an editor, but I say editor before I say publisher, but I think the both are important. It's not to be only with the books, but also for translations, but also for adaptation to the theater, for also adaptation to the cinema and so on. And I think the best way for an editor and for a publisher is the best way is not only to choose text and to say in general no for many texts, not only to say yes first, but second is to do all it's possible to do to give the most diffusion for that. In paper, in electronic, in cinema, I don't know, and so on. I think that's this way. And Paul was a person like that. It was very.
He did everything he could for the author.
Yeah. It is a main strategy.
This is my last question, okay?
Okay.
What's the best advice you can give to new and existing publishers about selling internationally?
I think is before to begin to meet international colleagues, publishers, editors, first to very well read, understand the catalog of these publishers. It's not only to say, well, this is my book, so you can see, but I think that for the publishers, it's not only to sell, but also to buy. For me, it's very shocking when in London, at the Frankfurt Book Fair, I heard many times, British publishers say, we're here to sell, not to buy. And I say, we're here to exchange. So we're here to exchange because it's a philosophy of publishing in general. And that because the translation is the first language in the world. So I say that my advice is to say you're there to, of course, you're there to sell rights, of course, but you have to be interested by the counterpart. So
because everyone's there to sell.
Yeah.
Someone has to buy.
Yeah, of course. Perhaps you know, but in France, about each year, 30,000 titles from French language are sold to be translated. And about each year. And each year, the same, about 13,000 titles from foreign languages are translated and published in France.
So it's about the same?
A balance.
13 and 13.
Yeah, 13. It's very interesting. But what we say is that for books translated from French to other language, 60% it's for English language, and the other way, 7% from the English language.
To French.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
My advice, my philosophy is to say you are not there to sell, but also to exchange. So you have to well know before, read the catalogs of the publishers, because it's the best way to sell, even to say, I think my book's for that more than
fit
but
that. Yeah.
Also to say, here, I discovered something, please send me, because I think it's possible for me to translate and to publish.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
I've been speaking to Jean-Guy Boin, who is the former director of the International Office of French Publishing in a noisy little quartier of Paris. Thanks again.